This week we are going to be tearing through Ephesians, Philippians, and Colossians. We started Ephesians last week, and we're getting ready to teach through Ephesians beginning in January. And the preaching team is going to be joining me in going through the book of Ephesians. I'm not going to talk about Ephesians. It's one of the most preached books of the Bible. It's about unity. But the book of Philippians and the book of Colossians are fascinating, at least to me, because they contain some of what I believe to be Paul's original poetry. Philippians has what we call the Christ hymn, which is just a tremendous hymn in chapter 2. And then Colossians has another hymn, the line, by him all things were created, in him all things exist, and that whole thing. And that's one of Paul's poems as well, I believe. I think that they reflect Paul's really his poet's soul. And people don't think of Paul as a poet. They tend to think of Paul as a theologian, very dry, very German, very Pharisaical in his structure. But we forget that Hebrew society was a society of song. And so it's very likely that as Paul is leading the church, he's providing them with a hymnody. He's writing songs, and of course other people are writing them as well, but he's including them in his books. And Philippians and Colossians both include poetry. I think Ephesians does too, although it's not quite as easy to tell. I think his thing about one church, one baptism, one spirit in Ephesians 4, I think that's also a song. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the armor of God in chapter 6 also has some poetic elements. Paul seemed to have really done that. The themes are, again, Philippians deals with the nature of Christ, and he spends a lot of time about that, and then the practical applications. Colossians is actually meant to be read in harmony with Ephesians and a letter we don't have, a letter to the Laodiceans. And there's, books that pretend to be Paul's letter, but they're not. We don't have that one, but we do have Ephesians and Colossians. That one obviously was not inspired of God to be kept by the church. But Ephesians and Colossians actually use a lot of the same language. The line about speaking to one another in songs, hymns, or spiritual songs is in both of them. And Paul, you can see how Paul is emphasizing the community of the church and the creativity of the church. And so it's really an interesting read as you read these books in rapid succession to see how Paul has really drawn all of this together.